Today, I'm sharing with you the 10 beliefs that have changed my life. They've changed my life because they make me feel a lot more able to create meaning. So when I look in retrospect to my life, I feel that I am creating meaning and I am present to each moment versus just living in autopilot, feeling an emptiness inside of me. It feels like with these beliefs, I have access to peace of mind, even through crisis, even through chaos, even through changes, inexplicable, surprising changes that life it's always throwing at us. So, Number one is realizing that healing is about self-discovery and embracing all of me versus fixing, getting rid of some parts of me that are not working. What happens is, as humans, we tend to hide, deny, and not show the parts of us that we don't like because they're kind of like the shadow, like they're the dark side of us, and we don't want to show them because we're embarrassed and we are ashamed, and we just don't want people to think that that's who we are. But the truth is that we all have shadows. So those people that we don't want them to think that we have something wrong, they also have stuff wrong, and they're also hiding their stuff. So ideally, what we need to remember, and this is where the rewiring of these beliefs come through, we need to remember that healing is about accepting ourselves, myself first, and then I'm able to accept everyone else the way that we are, right? Remember that definition of courage is to be able to take action towards the best idea of ourselves with the imperfect part of ourselves. So we always have to include the imperfect part of ourselves. We always have to say yes to our shadows. We always have to welcome them because they're not going to disappear by rejecting them. So what's number one? To stop rejecting our shadows and instead embrace them and be vulnerable and show them and say, yes, I made a mistake here. Yes, this is who I am. I welcome myself into this part of me. I love myself the way I am. I discover all of these parts of me. And then as I move forward, those things can transform. But either way, my life is I'm always going to have in life my lights and my shadows. And I am able to love unconditionally myself the more I acknowledge the shadows in me. If I'm only loving the beautiful parts of myself, then I'm not truly loving myself, and my love is temporary and it's painful. And more chances of suffering do I have. And if that's what I'm doing with myself, then that's what I'm doing with other people. So I will then have painful and suffer into my relationships because I will be experiencing victimization, shame, and guilt most of the time. And that is because I am not loving people or myself the way I am. That's number one. Number two is changing this belief that hard work means more value as a human being, that hard work means more money, that hard work means the correct thing to do. Instead, understanding that we can choose to work hard, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not the one and only ingredient to acknowledge the abundance in my life, to produce and align with prosperity in my life. And that resting, it's also a possibility for growth, abundance, success in my life. Both of them are part of my life, and both of them can be lights and filters from which I can recognize abundance in my life. So resting is as important as working, and working hard is a choice. It's not necessary for me in order to be worth it. It's not necessary for me in order to be successful. It's not necessary. It's just a choice that I can make if I am aligning to that in that moment. That was the second one. Number three, this is about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is very important because it's the ability that we have to embrace both of our sides, our masculine and our feminine. They together are two forces that are greater than individually. Most of us come to this life with focusing on one more than the other, right? So if I am more feminine, chances are that I rely a lot more on being receptive, on, having people take action, and then I react to that. I rely more on my intuition, and I rely more on letting myself flow with what's happening outside. These are just a couple of examples. But if I am more masculine, then I rely more on systems and structure and plans and goals and more rigid decisions that are completely separate from emotions. So ideally in life, what we want to do is find a way to converge both of those energies. And so the more aware we are to what's the energy that I am missing the most in my life, and the more I can start nurturing that part of me, the more complete and the more intelligence I would have to choose and not react to different situations, because that means I have space to then decide what is it that I want to do and how is it that I want to think and what is my opinion about a specific situation, because these two energies together can give me that harmony. But when I am too unbalanced and relying much more on one than the other, then I am kind of like incomplete, and that makes it really hard for me to relate with other people and also relate to myself. So emotional intelligence is number 3. Number 4, energy is a lot more important than time. Human beings love to use time as a way to measure our success or our failure, right? A lot of times we're like, if we don't stay enough at a job, or if we don't stay enough in a relationship, then we're a failure. Or if we are feeling behind because we're not right on track about how society says we should be, then we are a failure. But in reality, time is not really the measure tool that we want to use to understand ourselves better, and much less to understand our own success. What we want to use the most is energy, because it turns out that we only have one energy battery, and that energy battery is kind of situated in our gut. And it is through that energy that we're able to do everything in life: digest food, think, process emotions, cry, do critical thinking, create projects, go through creativity. All of that is done through the same battery. So I have to be very aware and present and smart about how I manage my energy. Most of the times we're relying on outside stimulators to keep our energy up in an inconsistent way, like coffee, like taking naps, like just shutting down, like illnesses, and so on. And so ideally we want to be more aware of, okay, if I just digested food right now, I need to give my body the energy and the space to do that activity. If I just overload my body, when I overload my energy battery, then I'm not going to have energy to do other things. And that's what most 90% of human adults are going through on a day-to-day basis, right? It's 3 o'clock, we want a nap, we need a coffee. We have no energy to focus anymore. We can't pay attention more than 2 seconds. We are overstimulating ourselves and have no idea how to manage our energy. So managing our energy was number 4. Number 5 is understanding that those two energies I talked about before, the feminine and the masculine, yes, they're kind of yin and yang, and they're 50-50, and they need to work together within ourselves and in our relationship with other things in this physical world. But also, feminine comes first. If we notice in the creation world, the way that new creations come into nature, it's always through the feminine. And then the masculine gets in touch with the creation and starts working through both energies. Does that make sense? So when you see a baby coming into this world, it comes through the feminine. And so that's exactly how all our ideas, all of our projects happen to come into existence. So that's why we need to give priority to the feminine, which is instead of trying to birth an idea or birth a project into this world by creating a structure and when this is going to happen and needs to happen this and these are the numbers, which is all masculine. We want to get in touch first with our intuition and let our intuition guide us through. With that, we need to trust our intuition and we need to understand how to be in our feminine for that idea to really come through. And it's that nurturing, that motherly energy that brings the foundation and the true connection of that idea into this world. And then the masculine energy comes through. So feminine always first, meaning intuition always comes before the structure, the systems, and the planning. So these are the first 5 beliefs that I wanted to share with you out of the 10 that I have. Go check out the next video so that you don't miss the next 5. Thank you.